Well, hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hey.
You guys doing? Good, good, good. Everybody's today. I'm happy about that. Now, how are you guys doing? Y'all all can. It's fine.
That's a complex question now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well,
I won't
Jerry-
lie, it's not coffee in here.
oh,
It's
well.
not coffee in here either.
Did y'all not bring enough for the class? I'm trying to understand.
You got like a ding dong right then and got wine delivery.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, people at home and abroad who are watching, this is a special episode of Torn. Torn stands for Theater on Racist Negativity. But January 2021 has started us off a little crazy. And for those who don't know, and I don't know why anybody would not know, we had the riot at the Capitol building, building that was started in 1800, and someone broke into it. All the areas of the building weren't built in 1800. They kept adding on to it, but nevertheless, and people broke into it. So I wanted to speak with artistic directors on their take on it. And of course, we'll talk about a few other things, but just the state of what's going on right now and how that, and they're looking because they really didn't know what I was going to talk about. They probably like, oh gosh, what is he going to say? But the state of it and how, if any way, has that set their theater back even further? Because we had COVID and we had the riots of this past summer, and now COVID is 3 times as bad, and we have a new set of riots. So I'm just going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, not like you don't know who they are. And who was on first? Tim, you were on first, weren't you? No?
I think
Yes?
so.
Okay, you and Johanna. Okay, well, ladies first. Johanna, you introduce yourself.
Sure.
Hold on. I had to think about that because I was like, I am talking to Mama Tim. But go ahead.
I'm Johanna Maynard Edwards. I'm the executive artistic director of the Women's Theater Festival. And did you want me to talk about the question you asked?
No, not yet. Not
Okay,
yet.
perfect.
Just introduce yourself. Now, you know what? I got a question to ask you, Johanna.
Okay.
Some people say Johanna, some people say Johanna. You say Johanna, so I say Johanna.
That's what I say, but I
Okay.
am used to people saying all sorts of things instead of
Hey, you. Right. Hey, you, come here.
a lifetime of it. So I answer to lots of things.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right when I say it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, Mama Tim.
I'm Tim Locklear. I'm the managing artistic director for North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater. And yes, the kids call me Mama Tim at the theater. And Juan knows me as Mama Tim because we work together. He's on the board, so it's a term of endearment.
Yes, it is. It's not offensive, anybody. Okay, Lauren, I'm gonna have you go next.
I'm Lauren Kennedy Brady. I'm the producing artistic director of Theater Raleigh.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Woodall.
Hey, I'm Eric Woodall. I'm the producing artistic director of North Carolina Theater.
Thank you. And Mr. Sip. Jerry, are you there?
I'm a papa, Jerry Sip, but only my granddaughter calls me that. I am the artistic director of the Justice Theater Project in Raleigh.
Y'all didn't hear what he said. He said he's Papa Jerry. So I guess I called him. Yeah, that's Papa Jerry. So again, there's only one person up here who hasn't been on before, so I'm gonna ask him that one question that I always ask at the very beginning. And I'm just gonna ask him the main part of it. Actually, no, let's ask him all of it. Eric, where are you from originally?
Mm-hmm.
And what is your nationality?
Yes, I am Caucasian, Anglo. I am from North Carolina, Benson. Grew up here, have lived most of my life in New York, and moved back 2 years ago for this job.
Okay, thank you. And I'll tell you the reason why I put the nationality in it. Everybody else up here has been here before, and it's because of what I call programming, and that is technically our nationality is American, unless you weren't born in this country. But then I had a nephew that took it even further by saying nationality stands for your country or the region you're from. The United States is our country, not America. And technically, if you're from Mexico, you're an American. If you're from Canada, you're an American. But because North America is a country, and if you're from Brazil, you're American because that's the continent you're from. But we have become so bougie, and everybody else treats us that way. England, China, everybody else treats us that way, that when you say American, you automatically think United States. Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a part of our programming. Like we don't say we're United Statesians, but everybody else says what country they're from. We say what we own the continent. So, you have your negative people that have been in the news lately who would look at a Mexican and say, you're not American, go back to your country. But yeah, they are an American. So I always ask that question at the beginning, and usually it's a panel of people that have never been up here before, but you got some veterans up here.
One of the things that I love that brings up is when you travel abroad, it's referred to, you always say, I'm from the States. And I love that term. It's not used here because we're in the States, I guess. But it's always, in Australia and Europe, Africa. I mean, it's all, people will say, are you from the States? Are you from the States? So I like that. And it kind of goes with what you're saying.
Oh, thank you. I didn't, I would have to go out of the country to know what they say. But thank you. Now you have just incorporated something that will be in the show permanently. Thank you for telling me that. You just contributed. Very, 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 very good.
I'm here to give.
Okay. So
you say from the States, things are going kind of okay. Otherwise, you say I'm Canadian. Because when you go outside of the country,
you don't want to say the country from here.
And many times you go outside the country and you say from the United States, and you have to say it with an apology. And unfortunately, I think those are the times you might be right.
And you know what? With him saying that, and for those of you who have been out of the country, or Jared, you think before 4 years ago that you would have had to say that?
Well, I actually lived in London for a year right after 9/11. And that was a really interesting time to be there because 9/11 happened obviously on September 11th. I flew over to London on October 1st. And not only was I on a 747 plane, transcontinental, I was one of 4 people on the plane because nobody was traveling. And I was like the only American I saw around while I was in London. And I would say, to answer your question, I was a little bit like, at first there was a lot of groundswell, in support of America. But then as the sort of war began, it became less and less so. And yes, I believe there was a lot of you could feel the tension across the world about America misstepping and not playing our hand correctly, so to speak.
Tim
had a situation when in 2017, Jim and I, we were in Switzerland and we were on a train going from one city to another. And we happened to hear the lady was not speaking with us. She was speaking to other people from the States. They were from Texas and they were sitting across from her. And they got on the subject of the election and Trump being elected and how surprised that Europeans were that Trump was elected president. And they were from Texas and they were pro-Trump. And I felt like they were trying to represent the whole country. And it's the only time that I've been in a country that I wanted to get up and say that not all people from the United States feel this way, because she was getting one impression, and what they were saying definitely, and it was during the time that we were having a hurricane, and they thought he was handling the hurricane so well, and everyone in the United States knew the situation with the hurricane. But that was just an example of being overseas, and what your question was about how hard it was being from another country and being looked at a certain way when I knew I wasn't the way that they were being portrayed.
I'll like jump on that too for 1 second, because my husband and I got married on November 7th, 2016. Donald Trump was elected the very next day as president of the United States. We went to Mexico on the 9th. And, when we got to Mexico, they were like, welcome, at her hotel. Where are you from? We were like, America. It was definitely, and everybody's faces were like, oh, sorry. Oh, yikes. That was like unanimous amongst everyone we spoke to. Lots of Europeans were there in our hotel, and everybody was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. It's very interesting.
Jerry,
a long trip in Europe. I took a long trip in Europe during Katrina. So that's you can guess the reaction.
How did they think about that? Okay.
They couldn't, almost worse than some of the other things.
Okay. Now the one question that I did. Wait, Johanna, where's the baby?
He's bitching about me in the other room.
Because you won't get off here and pay him attention, right?
I don't know what it is that he wants, but he is so mad at me out there. He said it.
Oh,
you saw him getting the handcuffs. That's when I know. Sorry, I keep cussing tonight.
Yeah, okay. Because we never cuss in theater.
Never.
Ever. So okay, so Eric, what was your first reaction to the event on January 6th?
Oh God. I mean, it was complete sadness and shock. Not that it was unexpected or something like that, unfortunately. I have to say, when you asked the question in the beginning, I haven't, and this might be bad of me as an artistic director, I have not thought about the event of last in terms of the theater. I've just thought about the event in terms of humanity and our country and life and death. And that, of course, will affect things, but the pandemic and the racial uprising and those events have completely changed everything, and certainly how we approach theater. I don't know, maybe it's still too fresh, maybe it's still too new, maybe we're still in shock. Maybe I will have a better answer a little later on, but I just, like everyone else, I've been if there's been anything positive, it's been, and this sounds like I'm just celebrating because there's people believing like I believe, but when some of the Republicans have had the courage and the strength to stand up for what we know, so many of them know that what's right and what's wrong, but the fact that it takes true courage to stand up and really make that statement, that has been encouraging to me. Encouraging. When the House, when the Congress when the Senate and the House went back and carried on their business, I thought it was one of the first times I have felt patriotic in about 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Lauren, your response to the earlier question.
Well, it's also complex right now. I think if anything, the way the events of the last week and what happened last Wednesday is affecting my theater is that I have lost my fight. That this week I have just lost my fight, and I am trying to just sit with it and be okay with the fact that I'm heartbroken, that that so much has happened in 2020, and we put all of our eggs in this like 2021 basket. And then, 7 days or so in, and we're just reminded that our country is very divided and very broken. Though I do believe, and like Obama says, I believe in the promise of America. I do believe that it can be a great system, but we have not had great leadership in the sense where we are being brought together. And I think I'm such an action-oriented person. I've spent the last 6 to 9 months being like, okay, what do we do? Let's go. Let's get past COVID. Let's figure it out. We'll make it work, And it took a second where I just felt like I needed to lick my wounds. And, I'm kind of hoping that my resilience will come back so I can lead my company in a way that is positive. I don't feel it today. Let me be clear in the fact that I'm not surprised that what happened. I'm horrified that it happened, but I'm not surprised. And it scares me for our children. It scares me for what's to come next. I worry about other insurrections happening, bombs being blown up, Timothy McVeigh situations happening again. When people are that far extreme, you don't know what is cooking up behind closed doors. And it scares me, of course. And it makes me sad that half of this country doesn't have the same values that I hold so dear. And I surround myself with, and I want to project to our audience. We want to reflect on stage the world that we see. And it really makes me sad that there's 50% of this country that doesn't see that world. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that I'll get my resilience back, and I hope that I'll be able to lead my company in a way that has that same kind of like forward motion. And come on, Joe Biden, and Kamala, let's do this, I guess. I think they have a lot of pressure on them. I know they're not magic people and they've got a lot of pressure on them, but I think we have a fighting chance. So.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sip, and we still have a little bit of a lag and delay on you, but I want you to answer that question anyway. We'll patiently wait.
I'm sorry about the delay. I've moved as close to my Wi-Fi as I can. My first reaction was in my automobile, and I reacted the way I normally do, which was to scream at my radio at the top of my lungs with a lot of bad words. My second reaction was probably a reaction I've now understood that many people did have, which was to realize that if it was a different group of people storming the Capitol, it would have been a very different outcome. I try not to think about the horrors of that, but that's what keeps me up at night. I think as it affects my theater, I haven't thought about it as much as I did today when I met with my staff and was looking at the great things that we have coming up, which are unbelievable, which I'm not taking any credit for, except for recognizing that the professionals that we're working for are going to do some amazing work. And I'm sitting back and just watching in awe about what they're going to do. But I think what it's made me feel like is that I'm ready to, I have very little control of this, but I'm ready to get back in the game. More so, I felt very much like Lauren for a very long time, where I just, got beat up by it so badly that I felt like I need to heal before I can get back in there. And now I feel like I want to, be back in front of people and in human beings. I want to be in groups of people. And I felt that resilience hit me today, which I have really been lacking for quite some time. So I hope that generates itself in positive ways as as people get vaccinated and hopefully people hunker down over the course of this next very, very difficult few months.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Johanna?
My story's pretty good. On January 6th, I had a dental surgery with sedation and all the stuff. And so I came home very, very loopy, ready to settle in for a nice rest. Mm-hmm. And then, there's an insurrection in our country. And simultaneously, so our company is in pre-production for a live stream virtual production of Othello in a modern verse translation by M. Finiso Rufio. And we were holding auditions virtually that day. And the call was for all BIPOC femme folk. So I had to wake up and get with my team and say, hey, something is happening that it seems like this is going to be big news and it's going to affect and potentially cause harm for the people in this space. And we had to just kind of, take that producer team moment. And I had to really rely on my staffers who were in the space and the inimitable Jamaica Holloway, who's the director of the project and who was, running the audition room, to feel those beats when I was, incapacitated as a leader. I couldn't go feel the room and say, let's shut it down. Let's not do this today. Or to see what people needed, but they got through it and they did a beautiful job working and holding both things at the same time. And I feel so grateful to have a project like this that is literally about the harm of white supremacy on Black and brown bodies, and to be able to work really, really hard to show up for a team of Black and brown, primarily queer identifying artists to make this project happen. It feels everything outside of it is giving me the burning fuel to do the job, to get it done.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mama Tim.
Well, Wednesday I was just watching what was going on about the election, sat down. I was thankful that on the 5th I had gotten my grant in and I was taking a day of relaxation and just a day for myself, and was sitting in front of the TV. And then the next thing I knew, here these people were storming the Capitol. And it's sad to say, but I've heard all of you. I wasn't surprised. What I was taken aback was, I said to Jim, he was in his office, and I called him and I said, where's the National Guard? Mm-hmm. Where are the people stopping them? Because if it had been Black people or a gay rights, movement, or even a women's movement, they would have been there to stop people. And it is a prime example of white privilege and the feeding of what has been fed into the United States in the last 4 years of it's okay. I go back to Charlottesville, and he's saying these were good people who we knew that they were Ku Klux Klan and white supremacy. And this has been just adding fuel to the fire, that it's okay that if we do these things and you stand in front of the police at the State House with a gun. And so in some ways I was not surprised. Definitely like the rest of you, I'm not sure how to process it moving forward in theater, except to tell the stories that I'm sure are being written now to reflect the world that we're living in. I guess I'm in a different space because of the year I've already had, and just having to digest all of this on top of it. I said the other day is I'm kind of numb, and in a lot of ways I think that's sad that I have gotten to a point over the last 4 months in order for survival. I've just been numb. And it's not that this didn't hurt or, but for my own sake, we have to process it. And I think each one will process it in different ways. It will affect each of our companies in different ways by telling the stories that will come forth from what happened. I hope I'm around in 15 or 20 years to see how that day will progress in history and what will happen in the years to come because of this one event that happened on January 6th.
Okay, and so for you first, Mama Tim, and then Johanna. Everybody else finished the 3-part question that I should have never asked in 3 parts because that's not a good thing to do as an interviewer. But anyway, what do you see for the future of theater with these extra 2 things added? The numbers, the CDC saying 90,000 people would die in the next 3 weeks, and then this insurrection. What are you seeing for theater?
Right now, I'm just hoping we're able to survive. They are passing the PPP once again in the arts grants. So I think they see the need in order for us to survive, we have to have these programs to help us as arts organizations. It's really hard with what's going on with COVID right now to know when we will get back in the theater. I know a lot of us were hoping that we're back in the summer, and right now with the way the numbers are, I don't even know if we'll be back next year, and that's the sad thing. But it's also one that's realistic, and how can we keep it alive as far as virtual, because there's only so much you can do virtually that you have to compete with Netflix and everything else. So I think the smaller companies are in danger in order to survive. And that's a scary feeling for us right now. I don't know what will happen in the next year.
Okay. All right. And Johanna?
I feel that we need community more than ever, and artists, we are, especially theater artists, like we are collaborative people. We make within a community, within an ensemble, within a cohort, and I do believe we need that connection and that community more than ever. And I think our future as theater companies is going to depend on us disrupting all the old models, everything that we've ever thought was the way to do it, and to rethink based around what are the needs of our community that we serve and the mission that we uphold in our organizations, and find those new paths forward to do it. My company has been fortunate. We have found a business model with virtual that works. We're doubling our revenue from last year to this, just doubling it. So for me, the shift back from virtual to getting back into renting spaces again is what I'm terrified of. Through this, just in this fiscal year alone, which just began in July, we've been able to pay $60,000 to human beings in stipends, which is just unheard. Like, we've never had an annual budget that high before. So for us to be able to pay that much money out to people
Right.
is huge. And I get a little salty thinking about going back to paying that in rent to a venue instead. And I think one of the ways to help small theaters survive this next beat is for our government, for our funders, for the people who are able to give money. It's to give us the damn spaces, give us those buildings that have shuttered because of this, that, or the other. Help us get into spaces for free and for lower costs so that we don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry, last year I paid $60,000 out to human beings. This year I'm paying it in rent instead. I can't in good conscience ever go back to that. So if that means I don't ever produce theater again in the old way, I won't produce theater again in the old way.
Okay. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate your honesty on that one. Something that was, I think Eric said it, and he said he never thought about what's going to happen with theater and stuff, and well, things in the in the future, because we've been in this for so long. We've been in this since March of 2020, which was 10 years ago.
I had somebody on my staff yesterday say it's March 317th.
Yes, I totally agree. That's exactly what it is. So I thought about it, and the reason why I asked you guys, because my word was I would never have more than one artistic director on the show at a time. But the reason why I asked you guys up here, I know, right? I went from one to just went crazy. I asked you guys and wanted a few others, and some of them couldn't be here. I know Monet is sick, and we hope she gets better. Definitely, please get better in this day and age and time. But when George Floyd passed, everyone made a statement and made sure it was on their website. But this time, and it wasn't just like you guys, like nobody really did anything. But I have white friends, coworkers, who are like terrified. They feel now like I felt then. And I never really thought about it until I talked to them. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't dismiss their feelings, because it is their feelings. But now I know the situations aren't the same, but their fear wasn't because a man lost his job. It was because people stormed the Capitol building. And they're inside the building talking about, we want our freedom back. And they're talking about in all 50 states going downtown and just tearing up everything. And so I thought, wow, I'm dismissing some of my coworkers' feelings, but I didn't want them to dismiss mine last June. And that's not, and I thought that's not fair. That's not right. And so that's another reason why I wanted you guys up here. Also, I say this, and it's kind of a joke, but it's not. People see theater people one dimension. Now, I know we're live, we're on the stage. You can see the front and the back and the sides of us. But when we come off the stage and when we leave the door of whatever theater we're in, we disappear. We cease to exist in that person's eyes. We don't have feelings, except unless we're expressing them on the stage. We don't get real about anything. We don't hurt, we don't cry. We're just on the stage. How many people do you guys know that you only know when they come to the theater? They don't know a lot about us. And I think one of the positives about this is we're getting more viewers than we've had before. Like, people still have this theater stigma, but they've seen us on social medias and they're like, oh, wait, that's a real person. Like, that person bleeds just like I do. They feel just like I do. And so I was like, I was hoping none of you guys would put out a statement because I wanted you to come up here and honestly tell what you were feeling and let these theater people know, because we got some theater people that are more upset. Oh, God, I'm gonna sound just like him on both sides.
I want to talk about that a second, because I certainly hope I didn't put across the idea that I hadn't for a long time with everything going on or thought about the ramifications of theater, because I certainly have. And even I am up very often through the night, and that has certainly been the case this past week. And it's thinking about work and it's thinking about the theater. I just don't see a lot of connection between what is happening now and what happened earlier in the year. Not that there isn't connection, there is connection with the undercurrent of what drove a lot of those people. But as far as how it affects theater, what happened earlier this year is all about the human condition and equality and justice and what is right. And we can do something about that. I don't right now know how that is directly connected to us with what happened this week. I have strong opinions as a person. I will say that our president CEO, Elizabeth Doran, wrote, she's an incredible writer. And right afterwards, she did write a statement. She just wrote it to our staff. It was pages long. There was a lot of information about who you can reach out to if you have feelings that you don't know what to do with right now. And it was incredible. And I talked to her and I said, you could publish this. I mean, this was like a magazine article. And she said, I just didn't know if we were going to put out some sort of statement. But we thought that it didn't feel like there was a reason to do it. In some ways, it felt like it would come across in an exploiting manner, to be honest. And so we certainly have a lot of feelings wrapped around it, but there are lots of folks who have tried to compare what is happening here to white people, to what happened earlier in the year to Black people. And I don't see that. I don't understand that.
Okay.
I know the connection between the two things. White supremacy. Okay. That's the connection.
Sure. Sure.
It is.
Yeah.
But if I can, I completely agree with what Eric, he said it much better than I did a while ago. I think what happened this summer with Black Lives Matter is the stories that we can tell much more than what happened January 6th. January 6th is just a mirror of what I was trying to say is the fuel that led up to, I know what I want to say, I'm not saying it correctly. The fuel that happened from Charlottesville on that caused Black Lives to Matter. That's why I wasn't surprised on January 6th. I don't think the stories that we're going to tell in theater revolve around January 6th. I think it will revolve around more of what happened this past summer. But I completely agree with the stories that the theater that we will tell in the future won't revolve around January 6th. It'll revolve around the summertime and things like that happened.
Okay. I definitely agree with that. Well, I agree with most of that. I actually want to know what happened January 6th. I want to get into the head of one of those people. You know why? I was like, what's just happening?
Comments.
I know, right? Comments. I was gonna mention those in a minute. I want to get into the head of those people, because I want to know what to stay away from. As a Black person, one of them could see me and something triggered them like it did in DC. I need to know. The rest of you may have a different reaction, obviously, because of skin color with that person. But I need to know what triggers them. But also, I think that there are some white people, younger white people in their 20s, who feel so much shame and guilt because of what's going on in DC, which goes back to the whole Black Lives Matter movement, because that's why they're saying they want their freedom back, because they think Black people are going to become the majority. That these young white people are losing sleep. Like, I work at NC State. In the last week, I've had so many people come to me apologize. I'm like, you weren't there. I know your values and what you think. And that's why I say with theater people, I mean, honestly, the comfort I needed in June, I think some of them may need comfort now because they feel guilty talking to me or saying something to me, or they apologize quickly, and I'm like, what are you apologizing for? You weren't in DC, you weren't in Charlottesville. And I don't think that's something that any of us see now, because we've taken for so long, for the last 4 years, it's been white privilege, white privilege, white privilege. Yeah. And it's like, okay, come on, you guys lose sleep too. You guys worry too. So I'm not taking anything away from Black Lives Matter, obviously not. But I just think everybody needs a little comfort. I'll say it like that. And
I just feel the magnitude of what happened earlier this year and with Black Lives Matter is enormous and touches and represents Black lives and BIPOC lives. And I feel like if there are white people that are upset, I just have a very different opinion about where they're coming from. And I have a hard time to feel the same way.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
And I think it's a small group of people. I think I'm not saying it's a small group of people, but it's so much smaller. The people being affected is so much smaller than comparing it to Black Lives Matter.
Well,
and it's not
maybe
based on years of oppression and inequality. It's based on fear of losing status or fear of losing the majority, which is not the same.
Okay.
Fear of losing what you had or not getting what you think you deserve.
Okay. Yes.
I think that if you call them
Jerry, if you're trying to try again, Jerry, go ahead. Hold on, Johanna. Try again, Jerry, because you're the when I'm NBC reporter delay that over in.
That's right. It happens on CNN too. It's fine.
I'm reporting from Uzbekistan. Sorry. What I would agree with I agree with what people have been saying, and I think that the way I equate it is that people feel like they're losing power, and I never really understood that so much in the sense that I feel like together we have more power than we do individually, and but I feel like this battle that people thought they were fighting was really a battle of power, so that they could retain whatever power they thought they had. And I just wholeheartedly disagree with the need for that kind of power. I've always felt like together as a country, if we were to band together, or even as a world, as a species, we would be so much more powerful to combat the amazing difficulties we all share than if we were trying to keep our individual or our group power as small groups instead of big groups.
All right, Johanna. Thank you, sir.
Well, one thing, we're like kind of dealing with this firsthand, like just this week trying to cast the role of Iago, where that actor is being tasked with being the embodiment of white supremacy and a particular kind of it, the white woman. And what you were talking about, Juan, we found that to be absolutely true, that a lot of these young white women had a hard time stepping into that evil because of those feelings of shame and I'm sorry and self-flagellation. But on behalf of them, on behalf of myself and white people everywhere, I think we gotta like hoe that row. Like, I think that we can't put that on you. We can't put that on other people of color. Like, we have to, like, in our world, in the reckoning in the white feminist culture, the white woman tears, like, we've got to do this reckoning. We have to step into it every day for the rest of our lives. And so we might need therapists, and we might need friends, and we might need coffee clubs, and we might need other things, but comfort from you, no. You save that. You save it for something else. We got to do this work. We've got to.
That's true.
Okay. I totally agree. But what you just said about like when I was in Blood Done Sign My Name, we had to have counseling, but it was also counseling for the white people that were in it, because they had to say the word nigger, and they were squeamish, and I understand why. But you get the I'm sorry, I was reading a comment and it was quite long. I had to read that in a second. You get the supremacists and the people that were in DC that say racism is over. They said that during Obama. Racism is over. You have a black president. Oh yeah, it's been said to me before. And you get them that say that was long. That was, why are you in the past? That was long ago. And I had to look at one of them and say, no, that was your ancestors. And I was like, by ancestors, do you mean my grandmother, who at that time was 88 years old, who's still living? Is that the ancestors you're talking about? Mm-hmm. So I did Sweat with JTP. I'm pointing up because that's where it is on my screen. And Matthew played, I was a parole officer, and Matthew played one of the guys just released from prison. And he had to call me nigger. And every time he said it, he kind of, and so I pulled him aside. I said, I want that to be the hardest word that you say out of anything you have to say to me. I want it to knock the first 3 rows. I want them to go, oh my God. Because we have to face it. And we have to right here. And theater is a wonderful place to start.
Yeah, and in the spirit of telling a story, you know, sometimes you have to play characters that are not close to you, and you have to embody something that you dislike. But it's all about the greater good of telling the right story. Therefore, it affects those first 3 rows where they're like, "Oh my God," and then they walk away different. And it's not fun to play that part, but it is serving the greater mission.
And I believe in care practices, you know. And in acknowledging that, and acknowledging that you might tap into something within yourself that you think you're not that character.
Yeah.
But in that work that you do as an artist, you might rub up against something that you didn't know was there. Yeah. And so again, as theater leaders, what kind of care practice can we help put in place? Like what Juan's talking about, having therapists on site.
Having like safe space and like tapping in and tapping out. So, you know, it feels like you're a group doing it together, and there's a shared knowledge about the experience. And yes, having therapists on, you know, there you know.
But to be there for everyone, as the therapist, to be there for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. We did with Bourbon at the Border. We had a therapist after every show out in our lobby for everybody, because it was such a slap in the face for a lot of people when you did that show.
And triggering. Yeah, you never know.
Very, very triggering. And that's one of the things as artistic leaders, when you're telling those kinds of stories, that's what we have to do for the safety, not only of our actors, but for those who come. Yeah, we can put up signs and say, you know, it has content, nudity or whatever, but you need to have, especially if it's a story like Bourbon or Blood Done Sign My Name, those are something that you have to have, because you don't know how it's going to trigger people. You know, it was so realistic when RLT was doing the show, and people were fainting, and they had to call the ambulance every night. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the name that Philip did, and talking about removing
the whipping man.
The whipping man, and they were having people faint. You know, that was a physical kind of thing, but you also have to look after people's mental health also.
There was. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
No, I was just going to say not just the audience, but the actors as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have that kind of oversight and care, because actors can be triggered and have to do it over and over again. So I'm happy to see more and more of those kind of practices happening backstage and in rehearsal rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I gotta. Oh well. I'm trying to stop making statements because I'm really supposed to be asking questions. But Eric, you're new. I'm sorry. I'm making statements. But it's also, I knew I had the right people because I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna talk. I ain't got to worry about it. So, somebody mentioned about being numb. Mama Tim mentioned about being numb because of this. I
still felt numb because of everything that I've gone through personally in the last 4 months, and then COVID and stuff. That's my feeling I've had to protect myself, is just feeling of numb. But the one thing that I took away afterwards, and I don't know if I'm the only veteran on the panel or not. I remember someone saying to me on my social media that I did not call out other people who were protesting when they were burning and looting and stuff like that. I'm all for peaceful protesters, and if someone's out there burning and looting, I think that's wrong. If you're going to protest, you need to have peaceful protest. And I told him, I said, undoubtedly you only post when I say something you disagree with. However, I have called out people who burn and loot. This is not the only time. And I said, when I took the oath of office as a person who was joining the United States Air Force, I'll never forget, it says to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. It does not say the president or a senator or a congressman. It says the Constitution. And if anything I was embarrassed about, it was seeing the veterans and the people going into the Capitol who were supposedly veterans who were attacking the basic decency of our democracy. So that is, you were asking about, that's the one thing that I said that I was completely ashamed about as a person who was a veteran in the past, because that is not what that oath is about. Yes.
Well, I appreciate that. That actually, great information, but that's not where I was going. But I appreciate that. Like I said, I want y'all to talk, and I knew I had the right people. But what I was talking about with the being numb, last summer when the George Floyd thing happened, sometimes I jokingly say we became the new Save the Whales. All of a sudden, everybody, 80 million people, well, give or take some black people,
yeah,
it's all of a sudden, it's all about BLM. And what really started out as a movement now looks to people as an organization, and it's not. And I'm sure y'all seen the videos where people are painting BLM on buildings, and it's not the black people that are doing it. So we're the new Save the Whales. But it bothered me, and I was upset about the whole thing. But I'm somewhat numb too.
Juan, I'm just going to jump in. I don't see it as Save the Whales. I mean, you are welcome to say that, but as a white person, I don't see it that way. I don't compare that to Save the Whales.
Well, I'm going to explain the reason why. What a lot of people saw when George Floyd died, I've seen for 50 years. And where were all these people between well, the time I can remember, from 1970 up until now, up until last year. No, I don't think George Floyd is a martyr because of his past and what he did, but we actually had educated Black people who tried to say this is what's going on, and nobody heard them. Nobody said anything. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Nobody said one word.
I don't think that's true. I just don't think that's true. I think it's a gross generalization to say nobody, and also to think that nobody was standing beside you for those 50 years. It's just not true. That's not true.
Okay, fine. I won't say nobody, but it wasn't as many people as it is now. Why did it take George Floyd? Why did it take George Floyd for it to happen? Why couldn't it have happened without him having to die on the street of wherever he was, Minneapolis? Why did it take
and to sort of like parlay the two experiences of this summer and January 6th, I think, well, why is it taking Mitch McConnell? And so why did it take this for people to stand up against Donald Trump when it's obvious that he was lying to his constituents, trying to take the election back, which had not been falsified and had been proven as such? So why did it take that? Why does it take people so long to stand up and do what's right? And that is a real question. You have a great question. I have no idea why it takes people so long. It makes no sense to me. I'd really love to hear what other people think, because are people afraid? Are they like quietly doing it in their own life and thinking they live by example? Or are they just afraid that they'll be, shunned by the other group? Or it's maddening to me. I don't understand.
Well, that's one of the things, and I definitely wasn't numb with George Floyd, because I just was like, oh my God. I just kept saying, any minute he's going to let up, any minute he's going to move his knee, and he never did. But you can probably ask quite a few Black people, and they say, okay, here we go again.
Sure.
And so that's the part about being numb. Here we go again.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess it was the visual, which optics that's my new word for 2021. It's all about the optics. The visual of George being down there sparked something.
Yeah, it hit a nerve for sure.
Words couldn't do it. And the same thing in the Capitol building. Y'all, let's
the audacity of doing it on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just be truthful. Not even on camera. If they hadn't gone in the Capitol building, because I have said it before, I was like, you know what it's going to take? Somebody's going to have to go and scare the House and the Senate to death. And that's what it took.
Some of those people who were huddled on the floor of the House of Representatives in that chamber got up that night and voted to not put the Electoral College through. And then a few days later not to impeach. Like, they were huddled on the floor, worried for their lives. Why didn't they?
It does go to the question, what does it take? And I was having a conversation about this last week, and just like what happened, unfortunately, it took all of those people having their own lives threatened before some of them got it. We say often it takes what it takes, and that's an unfortunate statement, but it takes a rock bottom. It takes a certain murder. It takes a family member getting snatched away. It takes things for people to get it. And that is sad, and that is unfortunate. But I also just don't want to lose sight that it's not everybody. There are people along the way that do get it before those last minute straws that broke the camel's back. There are lots of people who do get it and are starting the movement beforehand. And that's all I was saying earlier, because I do get your point, Juan. And all I was saying earlier is I do feel there were white people that with George Floyd that went, oh, again. I mean, it's not like all white people were like suddenly just shocked. And so I think it's not all one way or the other way is all I was saying.
And what I hope that we'll see is that, Juan, to your point about sort of going into a numbness, is that we all won't kind of do that. I mean, I started the show by saying I am like sad and I feel like I've lost my fight. But that's the worrisome part, is that, you know, the pendulum swings in our survival mode, and sometimes we go really extreme and then we forget so we can survive, you know, to get through our days, to get through our lives. And I don't want people to forget. Like, I don't want this to be a passing moment. I want to see everything we've gone through this year to really inspire change. I just hope so much that we are going to be embarking into a new episode in this country where there will be change and we will have actually learned.
To spring off of what Eric said, some of them didn't get it. They aren't going to get it because they were in on it.
Yeah, of course.
Because in many, many districts across our country, including many in our own state here in North Carolina, these people have been elected by the people. Until we change those hearts and minds, until these people aren't able to be elected, you can't change their mind. They were giving tours the day before to these people. They were showing them where the panic buttons were to pull them out of the walls. Like,
absolutely. And I will say, as this white person, you know, coming to terms with how many people voted for Trump this last time, it's still shocking. I'm like, I can't wrap my mind around it. Whether you're white or black or whoever you are that votes for him, I can't wrap my mind around it. Seeing the numbers of people that were in Washington and just knowing for sure how big this is, that has been a reckoning. And just like being in New York after 9/11, being in New York after Trump won, the day after Lauren's wedding, it was a day of mourning. It was because you talk about living in a bubble. Like, in New York, we had no idea that such a thing could be possible. Yeah. And it was when we lost our innocence and we woke up. And so that's been happening gradually.
That's an interesting point too, Eric. You know, because I think about, you know, Eric and I live probably 3 blocks away from each other on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is, you know, famously the most liberal zip code in the country. And, you know, my daughter went to PS 199 where all her friends were brown and black. And, you know, her friend group looked like the United Colors of Benetton. And it was just the life that we lived there was just so different than when we came to North Carolina. Now, I grew up in North Carolina, so like this, I kind of got and understood and had to unlearn. But when all this started happening this summer, you know, she was sort of like, I didn't know that it was like this. And so she's actually having to do research, you know, sort of back to understand that people think differently than her, you know? And I just think it's a really interesting conversation to have with children, because ultimately they are going to be what progresses us forward as minds are shifting and changing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a lot of pride and enthusiasm about what the youth is going to do for this country, because they're some smart cookies and they get it and they know it and they're awokened. You know, if that's probably not the right word, but they're woke. I mean, they just understand that the world has changed and the world is different, and they're not going to take anything less. So anyway, all that being said, crazy times. Let's make the change.
And I want to say, wait, hold on. I want to say thank you. Thank you, Eric, because sometimes I do like when I was like nobody, I didn't realize I was saying nobody. And up here, I wasn't thinking nobody. I was just thinking the masses. And then I never told you this rule. I usually tell everybody when they come up here, I'm human too. So if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm not getting upset about it. I am.
Well, I'm sure there were times it felt like that, Juan, that nobody was changing. Got it. Yeah.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Okay.
what was so hard sitting there Saturday, and I don't know if any of you were watching before they started gathering at the Capitol, was sitting there listening to Mitch McConnell, and after 4 years, sitting there and listening to him, and you agreeing with him as a Democrat or liberal, and you're having to sit there and say, wow, I'm sitting there and I'm agreeing with what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'm not giving you a pass. Because why did it take all this time?
Yeah,
And
why did it take so long?
And don't even get me started on that Queen Lindsey Graham. Because I'm just telling the truth. You know, Trump has something on Lindsey. I would love to see the tapes. I don't know if I would or not, but you talk about somebody hopping from one side to another. I'm not giving these people a free pass.
No, this is like Torn After Hours.
We do not speak for our nonprofits. We are just humans.
I just tell it like it is. And my husband standing over there right now saying, oh my God.
That's so funny.
It's just
Joanna,
well, the hypocrisy is upsetting. And I think if anything upsets me the most, it's hypocrisy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, believe something and do it and feel it and own it.
That's right.
Joanna?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to add a little just validation around your conversation of the nobody and the feeling that George Floyd on, this bandwagon mentality, and like from the side of a white producer, the first demonstration in downtown Raleigh for George Floyd was on the opening night of our virtual production of Freak Show. And so we had our performers trying to perform from home with this happening in the background. And some people, like one person was performing from my home and needed to get home to downtown Raleigh that night. And, you know, like during intermission, I wanted to stop and like, are you okay? Like, do we need to stop? Y'all, do we need to stop the show? What do we need to do here? And then after that, I did create, I'm going to say it because I did a cringy thing. Some people thanked me and some people said it was really effed up. But I created a comp code, Black Lives Matter, for anyone who wanted to use it to escape and see the show for free. And I did it because I thought it showed solidarity, and I thought it showed I see you and you're dealing with enough right now and you shouldn't have to pay for theater. And yeah, I think a lot of times me and other white producers, we struggle really hard with doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, and then trying to have the courage to be like, I effed up. I didn't do the right thing. I caused harm by doing that thing to you. Mm-hmm. And that it's really hard because you want to defend yourself. You want to, but I was trying. Right. But
you know what? Let me say that, and people at home watching, normally this is a diverse, like she was talking about the rainbow, the Benetton rainbow. Normally it's diverse, but I'll say this, and I'm just going to be honest, and it may get me kicked out of theater. I work with 3 people up here, so they may never use me again. But I asked artistic directors or the people in charge, and it just so happened that the majority of it is this race. Now, for whatever reason, I'm not saying anything negative or positive. I'm just saying it is what it is. But I still wanted the people I got up here. And I forgot my damn point. Oh, old age is up.
While you think about that, I'd love to go back to just talking about a little bit more about, just to make sure I'm clear and that we have made it clear. Is there something wrong with white people getting on a bandwagon and quote unquote getting it, and it taking something like George Floyd, when so many people, Black and white, were very aware of the injustice beforehand? But if it took that to do something that could involve millions of people to finally get it, even if they're it's kind of like, what took you so long? Really? You didn't understand this till now? Even with that, isn't it the point that we now are celebrating that more people are moving things in a positive direction?
I'll tell you, and it's funny because I was about to say something about that. I'm glad that, yes, it's a great thing that it happened. Well, oh, that didn't sound good. Sorry, George. It's a great thing that it opened up other eyes, but things were starting to be done and nobody was consulting the Black people.
Again, with that nobody, I don't think that's fair. That's
well,
not fair. That's not fair.
This time, I like to know what, like BLM is being put up everywhere because they say that's, letting people know. But
well, what's supposed to happen? Like, what's the right thing to do? Like, what's the positive thing to do?
And that is actually a good question that should have been asked 7 months ago.
A lot of people were asking that, Juan, to be fair.
Okay, so you personally did, like, okay, well, we're there. Let's go there. Everybody here put out a statement when George Floyd happened.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ask any people of color about the statement before you put it out?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, I know you did because I was with you. Okay, well, not every theater did. And they all sounded the same. And I said that on the first episode of Torn, that they all started with blank blank theater stands by Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
None of them said, hey, we're here for you. Or I didn't, let me not say none, because there were a few. Thank you, Eric. You got to get that none and nobody out of my head. Yeah, you got to get that out of me. But for the most part, I read 6 or 7, and they were promos and plugs for the theater, not something that was concerned and cared about what I was going through at the time.
Understood, and that's wrong.
And to me, what I saw was that nobody was consulting anybody of color.
Well, you just heard that that's not true, because there are several of us on this Zoom meeting that did. So
Okay.
you're very valid. Your point is completely valid, and there was a lot of that happening. But it wasn't everybody. That wasn't what was coming from everyone.
No, it wasn't. But when I put up the posts that were made, they all looked like they came from the same playbook. And the question you just asked me, over the last 8 months, how many people have you asked? How many people of color have you asked that question to? What can we do?
What question?
What can we do? What should we do?
Very many.
Have you asked it? Very many. And did they give you answers?
Nobody has a clear-cut answer.
Okay.
We talk about things, we have conversations, which is why I think we're doing this series, is to talk about these things. I wish that people did have answers, like really, I would follow it by the book. But the suggestions that have been made, we're following. And not that we're doing every single thing that we have, but we might be doing some things that haven't been suggested by some people. But I think what's come out of the last 10 months is to have true change. Our hearts have to be in the right place, and we have to be willing to learn. And I am not coming across like I know, because I don't know. I am white, but I know enough to say, I don't know, tell me. And that has been how I've started the conversations, and I'm not alone.
Okay. So
And I think the most important part too, as we're moving forward, is continuing to have the conversations and not having just the initial response be, okay, that was enough. But it's the continual, it's walking the walk every day and knowing that it's not happening as fast as we want. It's a long game in the sense that we have to be diligent and dedicated to that betterment. That's what I want to make sure we're doing.
And I think, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say that at the same time in our learning, as we're writing these statements and putting these out, the other side of that coin of what we've been learning is not to ask Black people and our BIPOC friends for this free labor, not to put it on them to tell me what you want, tell me what I can do. So a lot of us might have been working from that angle too, that like, this is my job to write this. I have to develop my anti-racist ethos and put it into words without making a Black person
do the heavy lifting.
Do the work for me.
And I also believe that actions. I was just going to say, Tim, I just believe that actions speak louder than words. And even though a lot of those words, and there have been a lot of words, and words are words, and the proof is in the pudding.
I think one thing that we're all up against is, since this has happened, unless we have done virtual work, we're not able to get into the space and start, those of us who have spaces and get in, and we have worked with our boards. And I think it's a mistake for us not to ask these questions, because I've been in several Zoom meetings with everybody on here in different platforms. I think one of the best things that's happened in this area, and I'm not saying it because of Juan and Lauren, but Torn has opened a whole new dialogue that you and Lauren don't know about in some of the other meetings. Absolutely. And has absolutely caused the conversations to have. And I think Eric is absolutely right. I don't have the answers. I don't think any of us on this panel have all the answers. I think what we need to do is work to make a better company, whether it's a theater company, whether it's a computer company, and we just have to work at being better human beings to include everybody. No matter whether you're a BIPOC person, a woman, a LGBTQ person, I think all of the things that we have to do as human beings is be able to work together and have conversations that are hard to have with each other. Because, sometimes there's questions that I want to ask. Well, no, I'm not going to say me, because I'll ask anything. But there are those people who find it hard to ask questions, and they're not sure if they should ask it or not.
Well, you know what, I Mama Tim, that part is probably the funniest part to me, because we do plays that are racially charged plays, and they're racially charged on purpose. So what I don't understand is, if that is the case, then why is it that some people feel like they can't come to me and talk to me about what's going on in the play outside of the play?
I think it's the environment, it's the society that we live in, and I'm not talking about me, but there are those who have a hard time coming up asking questions, even to me as a gay person. I'll use that as an example. Coming up and asking me a question that they may have somebody in their family they don't know how to deal with. It goes beyond. It can be a BIPOC person. It can be, is it wrong for me to celebrate Cinco de Mayo in my house when I'm not of Hispanic origin? I'm grasping at things. It doesn't have to be about race. It can be about anything. But the racial questions are very hard for a lot of people to ask. And we have to get to a point that it's okay for us to have these conversations. And I think the platforms like Torn, those of us who are in leadership and working with our boards to make our statements better, mission, how are we going to move forward in our current society? And stand by the missions that we make. And this is what we're going to do. We have to continue to have these conversations. And I think that's one thing that everybody has to understand, that the conversations are hard to have for some people.
Jerry,
Because we
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if I'm coming through here, I think that's the frustration a lot of folks at this moment in time is that I think that we're having difficult conversations here on Torn, which is such an awesome forum, and in our democracy right now. And those conversations are what theater's all about and what art is all about. And if we don't have those conversations, then we think we already know the answer and we don't have to ask any more questions. And that's why I think the Capitol was stormed. I know the answer. I don't need to listen to anything else. I know the way, and I'm going to do whatever I feel is right on that. Instead of listening to other human beings, find out where they're coming from, find out what the issues are that you didn't live and so that you don't understand, and try to see things from people's points of view. And those are the difficult, hard, messy conversations that we have every day in the arts community. Not enough, but that's a disconnect between folks who are searching for answers and folks who think they know them.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I think one of the things, again, I'm used to hearing dogs on Zoom, dogs and babies. I mean, it's Zoom. It's a given.
Ron, have we had any,
dog will be quiet.
Have we had any questions or comments? You told me to remind you.
Yes and no. I think people, and I mean, we got people looking, but I think they're just like this. I'm like, oh God. I can tell you, and I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I felt like it was within 1 or 2 days after George Floyd, statements came out, and it did not seem like, thank you, Eric, because you see I'm choosing my words now. It did not seem like people were consulted. It just seemed like the artistic director and the executive producer said, we got to put out a statement quick. And now things are being done now. I'm not saying they're not, but within that first 1 or 2 days, it was just, we got to hurry up and get a statement out, because we don't want to put it out too soon, but we don't want to put it out too late, because they're going to look at us. It really wasn't about the theater. It was about theater's people, like myself. It's like theater's my second home. So I wanted my second family to support me somehow. And so seeing those statements in 1 or 2 days, and it was just like they were just popping out. I was like, oh,
it's
Lord.
Interesting that you say that, because I actually did have a couple of Black actors who had just worked in my theater contact me and say, are you going to put out a statement? Because I had been in board meetings for days trying to get it right and be consulted and make sure what we did felt appropriate and not rushed and not empty, and we really wanted to make sure what we said was a promise. And so, it was an interesting time, because I did not want my friends who have worked at the theater, who are of the BIPOC community, to feel like I did not have their back. But I did need to make sure that I was being consulted in the right way by people were at the table who were, brown and Black bodies.
Okay.
I actually helped before we put out ours. I'm on the SETC EDIA committee task force, Southeastern Theater Conference.
I get the emails.
There's a
Thank you.
EDIA task force, and I'm a member of it. And so that as the task force, we helped make the recommendations to the executive board of that organization in creating their statement. So I kind of use that process as the guinea pig process to work with my board through making WTF's statement. And we were late to the party because, I didn't want to get it wrong.
And again, too, like, it's all about follow through, isn't it? At this point, isn't it all about like, all right, walk the walk?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I do think there are some people that had the wrong motives, I'm sure. And then there are some people that did the best that we knew how and could have made mistakes, even trying not to say the wrong thing. And but I do know, and certainly since then with the REI training that we've done and the IDEA task force that we've created through our staff and board that meets every other week, we are taking action and we're working towards these things. Would we put out a statement that would be slightly different than what we put out then? Perhaps. I do think people were consulted, and I wanted to bring up this point too, because I struggle with this. Even in this situation, it would have been inappropriate to say, we talk to Black people. And sometimes it's hard you don't want to feel like you're saying, I have Black friends. You don't want to feel like you're saying, this is what I'm doing, because it draws light to it. But then if you don't say anything, it's assumed that you're doing nothing. That's a struggle.
And I definitely understand. I still
it
see
doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me. I don't want to say it at all.
Like today, I've seen companies that are no longer working with Trump and dealing with Trump and blah 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 blah. And it's like the statements all sound the same. Everybody starts the statement with such and such company is committed to whatever. And in the case of what's going on now, to equality and justice for all. I mean, I know that's not what it's saying, but if you look them up now, they've all gotten rid of Trump in their lives, and they all say it's like you're just reading the same thing over and over again. And after a while, you become numb to that.
Yeah.
But Juan, I understand that. And part of the anger is, look, where were you people before? I understand that. But can't we celebrate the fact that at least the knuckleheads get it now? Like, even if the statements all sound the same, what would you have them sound like? I mean, what should it be that's different? Isn't the point that they're taking a stance now that's the right stance?
I think, can I say something to that? Eric, I think that's absolutely correct if they follow through.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
And to borrow the phrase from the military, don't CYA, because I feel like that's what they're trying to do. Cover your. That's what I think. That's what I think some of them are trying to do. One, I didn't mean to take your answer, but that just popped in my head. I feel like, Eric, I don't want to celebrate what they're doing right now. If they continue down the road, like we say, as theater companies, if we follow through with these changes that we're making for BIPOC lives and for LGBTQ and women, if we follow these things, then we're being celebrated. If these companies are going to back up what they're saying now, then let's celebrate them. But right now, I feel like they're jumping on the bandwagon to CYA and to distance themselves at the moment when we're talking about in politics. I'm talking in the politic arena.
I guess I come from the point of view of there being no bad publicity. Like, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Even if their motives are wrong, we're getting it.
I think that this is the time to Juan. We're learning to be trustworthy people, and we're learning to run trustworthy organizations. And I think that's where the statements, the actions, that all those things have to come together, is to continue to show ourselves as the type of people that you can trust.
Agreed.
with your work.
Agreed.
Yes. Yes.
Lauren, I was going to ask you
Very
a
well
question.
said. Yeah.
If you came out from your new workspace, which by the way I got to come see, and as you were coming out, somebody clocked me over the head. Some white person clocked me over the head, called me a nigger, said that they were pro-Trump, and took off running. And you came over to me. What would be the first thing you say?
Well, first of all, I'd say, "Are you okay?" And then I would turn to them and say, "You're never welcome back at this theater ever again."
Forget them.
Forget
but that would be the first thing you what would you say to me?
I would say, "Are you okay? What can I do to help you?" That was bullshit.
Stop. That if the statement started like that, that's that one
That's
statement.
a good point. I appreciate that point.
You see what I'm saying now? One particular statement, the first 3 paragraphs talked about it. The first paragraph was blank, blank, blank theater is committed to Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah. The second and the third paragraph promoted a play that had been done there years ago by saying we almost as if I can't remember it word from word.
Like
but
we were already doing this work.
Right, like we were already here and we were doing this before. And then the fourth paragraph said, we're here for our actors and actresses of color. Why couldn't that have been the first paragraph?
Sure.
Why did it have to be after the basic sentence that everybody puts, and then the promotion of the theater saying, "Hey, we did it first, so we're innovative." Really?
Mm.
Juan, there's 2 questions over there.
And I do think that that's a I mean, that is the instinct, though, is to I think theater can help, and you make a very good point.
And don't look, and don't get me wrong, I probably would have done the same thing. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, but that goes back to that programming that we have. Totally. We got to get a statement out, and we got to make sure that it's correct and everything on it is perfect. So we can't just say, "Are you okay? How are you feeling? We're here for you. If you need us, give us a call or give us a whatever." We can't just do that. We have to make sure it's formatted a certain way and it looks a certain way and it starts with a certain sentence and it ends with a certain sentence, because that's the right thing to do. No, that's the program thing to do. Be real. Just be real. Lauren's words were exactly it. Are you okay? What can I do for you?
I do, as people who run nonprofits, like, we're constantly being asked to toe a line where we have to be nonpartisan. We have to adhere to certain things in order to keep our nonprofit 501c status from being revoked. And I do think it was incumbent on us to say we denounce and articulate the things that we denounce so that it's very clear, crystal clear, in black and white, as they say, the things that we denounce and that we just don't accept as part of our culture.
And you know what's funny about that? It's stated and said, and of course all day today I've seen it. But as Eric and Tim said, you know, they say we fired such and such, but then we never hear anything else about it. So did they actually get fired? So when I see we denounce, and not from people here, I know people here, but when I see it, that's another numb feeling for me. That's just another numb feeling. We whatever denounce racism and hate and sexism and yeah, okay. It's like you copied and pasted from somebody else's statement. And I don't want that to. Tim, where's these questions you're talking about? Are they on your page?
They're on under. Lauren put up 2 questions under the chat part. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, the private chat. She told me to stay on comments. Lauren, make up your mind. Yeah. So and people watching at home. again, as you can see, we still laughing and joking. Ain't just in case y'all see it like this, like, oh, they getting heated, they getting mad at each other. Ain't nobody.
No.
Good conversation. These are the debates
Exactly.
to have.
This is how we learn. This is how we learn.
Totally.
So I just hope that if something else, no, I don't. I don't want anything else to happen. But what I would like to see, and it may just be, I may just be the nobody, Eric. I may be the lone one, but I just I wish that, you know, when my theater family would make it personal when they make statements and make it feel like they're talking to me, or, you know, and then the next person feel like they're talking to them, whether it's a black person or a white person, or Kaylee or Ariane or anybody. Just make them feel like, you know, okay, you know what, time out for theater and time out for the theater rules, and time out. And I know this is probably lightning gonna strike me. Time out for the whole nonprofit thing that we do. We got people that we put on the stage during the year that are hurting.
Yeah. We
need to take off our expensive clothes and we need to get down and dirty and help our theater people. So that's just, let me read these questions. Do you think there's a role in moving the needle on? One question. First question, does anyone think that theater has a role in moving the needle on these conversations?
Hell yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. That's how conversations get started. It's a shared experience and telling of stories. Absolutely.
I'm gonna ask Jerry to say something because y'all know he's over in
Uzbekistan.
He's over in Wakanda somewhere trying to report. Jerry, so you think it has a role? Do you have an idea what kind of role it has?
It's funny. We do so many things. Yeah, we do so many things in public and in private. And one of the things we are lacking now is we don't have the public or the private in the way that we ever did before. And so I think we goof things up. Now, that's not to say that the George Floyd era that we was wrong. I'm sure probably one of the latecomers to the table. And I don't know that we did any better job, but we were very careful in what we were trying to do. But that doesn't mean we did any better job in doing what you're voicing that you would have liked for us to do. In private, we were trying to do this exact thing that you were asking for. And in public, we were going to say, if we're going to put out this giant statement, a poet, I'm not a poet, but as a poet, you have to say everything you say in the fewest words. And if you had to cut everything else out, you would say, Justice Theater Project says no. That would be, the best we could do. In other words, you cut from the bottom and you say, as an organization, we say this. That may be why a lot of us put it at first. This entire group of people says no to this thing that's happening here. Whether that is the right approach, that's definitely the wrong approach in private. In private, we're trying to do different things. In public is our obligation, especially those of us who have missions that are geared to do change or social justice change. There's a lot of things to do the arts, and every one of them has that at its principal core value, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But those of us who do, and even those of us who have it as part of our value structure, the arts are the principal way, I think, that we change minds. What I was talking about before, my comment before about people who already have their mind made up, it is extraordinarily difficult to change the mind of a person who's already got their mind made up. And I think the tool we have is two things. What you've been talking about, Juan, is that personal approach. And the second thing we have is the arts being able to show people a different window into that world. And so I'm hoping to get back into that if we can and try to do what we can, at least, to affect the change that's needed so badly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Next question. Have conversations like Torn and Higher Ground, co-sponsored by Theater Raleigh, that was a plug in there, made a difference in the community? Have they made a difference in the community? You want to answer for Higher Ground, Lauren? Do you
Me,
think
sure.
made a difference?
I think so. I mean, the response to Higher Ground has been amazing. It's a monthly conversation Mike Wiley does, and it was in a response to not being able to take the trip to Montgomery to do the yearly trip that he does. And it is such an incredible conversation platform where he speaks one-on-one with leaders in the area and across the country. And also there's some, entertainment as well. The numbers that show up to watch it, it's free. We offer it for free. Has been amazing. And I think I'm changed every time I watch it and listen to him. I learned something new. It sinks what I already know and feel in my heart. It sinks deeper and deeper. And I feel the same way, Juan, when I watch Torn and I get to listen to the incredibly smart people in our area talk about their perspectives and their experience. It's so important to hear all the different viewpoints. And though in our industry, we tend to be closer to the same viewpoint, there is still nuance and there's still understanding to be had. And so us kind of unpacking it like we are tonight and like we're doing on Higher Ground is vital. And I mean, it's clear the success you guys have had with Torn.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's it goes without saying with Torn. It has, as I said before, my goal was not just for theater people, but to show other people that we're human, and to bring us a little closer together, and just have actual conversations like Eric and Tim have been saying, actual conversations where we actually talk, and you don't bring the feelings into it. Which brings us to our next question. Maya asks, how do you not cross? Who and me? Was that you, Eric?
It wasn't.
It was me.
Oh,
go ahead.
Tim.
Oh, Tim. Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say it also, having these conversations lets us know that we don't always have the handlebars of control, and we have to let go and try to. I've always been about working together. And sometimes I want to have the answers, and is it going to be A, B, and C? And if anything I have learned throughout since March the 15th for me has been that I don't have control of COVID, of what's going to happen in the country for theaters right now. And it's just, I think, how can we better ourselves as a theater company? And I think programs like Torn and Higher Ground and other things that are out there national, some things that I've seen nationally have definitely started the conversations that have been desperately needed.
And I'll just add on to that too, that I see these platforms as these incredible, fertile seeds. And these seeds that have been put in the ground and soil has been put back around them, and there is and we're just waiting for these blooms. And there have been little sprouts, but unfortunately, with theater not coming back for so long, it's been hard to see, sticking with this analogy, what our crop is going to be. But I think we have to keep tilling that soil to see what we are going to produce.
Yes,
but change
definitely.
is coming. Change is coming through this.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because I think that, and I think you guys would definitely see, there'll be more. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Let me ask this question, and I'm gonna get to what I was about to say, and I won't forget this time because I wrote it down. Maya asked, how do you not cross the fine line between being personal and not crossing that nonpartisan business line? Sort of like what Johanna was talking about earlier. Oh, okay. So, Johanna, you want to answer that? Johanna?
Yeah.
God, I said Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, theater is political, right? Like, theater is the entire reason Women's Theater Festival exists is through a socio-political mandate, right? And we're allowed to make political theater. We're allowed to make theater in a way that shows our values, that are based on what we as a society are deciding we're going to value, and we're going to do that through our work. So you can do those things without it being about, I fucking hate Trump, so I'm going to use my nonprofit to do everything I can to mess with that guy. Like you can circumvent that by creating work and creating a business and creating an atmosphere and a culture and an ethos around what you do prioritize and what you do feel is important.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Jerry, I'm going to ask this question of you. It's probably going to take him about 20 minutes to turn his mic on, but we're just going to patiently wait. What exactly, Jerry, is a safe space? And I'm going to tell you the reason why I asked this. Everything is, since I've been in theater, every theater and everything, every place was supposed to have a safe space, but then you had to get the Chicago Code of Ethics. If everything was a safe space, then you should have never had to get the Chicago Code of Ethics. So we see that on forums now. This theater is a safe space. What is it? A safe space? It's safe from COVID. What is it safe from? Safe to? Yeah, answer. What is a safe space?
The best answer I would be able to provide is to ask the participants what they need to be safe. And that's one of the things that we try to do. And, we're learning. We're learning, I think, like everyone else. What is it that you feel like you need to be safe? And let's talk about that. And until we know everyone's definition of that, we can say, okay, we can have a discussion and say, well, we can't guarantee that, feelings might never get hurt. Feelings get hurt all the time for reasons. If that happens, then we can share, we can do this. We can try to guarantee your personal safety. We can try to, and we need to guarantee your emotional safety. We need to and we need your ideas of how to do that, because each group is of a bunch of individuals. Just as we assess with this other group here, this particular project, doesn't mean it's going to work for that group of individuals. And so I would say having those conversations up front, which is why, again, I'm not in any way saying we've got it even close to right, because right when we started doing it, soon after we started learning how to do this, we weren't doing it in person anymore. But to find the process, and we're just going to strictly adhere to this code of ethics, or this code, what's written down in this book, but to individualize it for each group, to say, what do you see as something that we can all agree on as a code of safety, and we're going to deal with the ramifications of that. And I think that we haven't been trouble-free since we did that, but I would say that a lot of the usual things that might have come up have been decreased in that. And I would like to decrease them to the point of 0. That's an unrealistic goal, to have never there to be any problems. But it goes back down to conversation. Our conversations like these.
I think you need both things. I think you need a set of standards that everyone in your community is agreeing to, and working agreements among the working group. Both things have to be in place to create that sense of safety and the level of harm reduction needed to do our work.
Mhm. Well, and I'll tell you why the reason why I asked that. Because I've,
Yeah, there are certain points that I think we can all agree
that
can't go across that line.
Okay. All the plays I've done, I've heard that, and
I'm just saying, John, I think I was trying to be a little nebulous there, but I would say that I think we can all agree that personal safety and criminal action, and there are some that are just givens, and those are written in stone. And now let's talk about the nuances. So I thank you for your yes and.
Okay, I'm gonna try again. So I've heard the statement, and it's another one of those numb statements, and it's not any theater's fault. It's probably mine, because you get ready to get into a play, you having your first reading, your mind is on the play, and you hear the typical, this is a safe space, we're gonna, and every actor, it probably just, it just, okay, I've heard that before, it's a safe space, let's get started. But I never really stopped to ask, well, what does it exactly mean that this is a safe space? So what are you considering safe? What are you considering not safe? Because if 10 years ago, everyone was saying, and that was before I got in, if everyone was saying that theater was a safe space, then again, why did you have to make the Chicago Code of Ethics? I don't know this for sure. I wasn't there, but I can, just from hearing it before, I can almost guarantee that theater in Chicago that went under all the fire, before each play, a director said this is a safe space, and it wasn't. So that's that programming again. It's our words, and we actually need to adhere to what we're saying, and no, we don't know what the exact right things are, but the things we are saying them, how are we going about saying them, and how are we going about doing that? I'm trying to get off in 8 minutes. Somebody want to talk about that?
Well, I was just going to say, I think the intention, is now more on the terminology safe space. I mean, I've been in show business for 30 years, and it's not always been said. I mean, there have been certain things where they're like, yes, if you have a sexual harassment issue, please talk to someone. And there's been, I'm part of the Actors Equity Union, and there's always been an equity deputy that you can go to say, I'm having issues with somebody, or this makes me feel uncomfortable. I think the Chicago Standards was a way to sort of formalize a union's sort of safety net for even non-union theaters, where everybody had a code of, or like I can't think of the right word, but someone they could go to where they could talk to and say, I feel uncomfortable. This person said something to me, makes me feel uncomfortable. Or we're doing this makeout scene and nobody's asked me if I'm comfortable with like using tongue, and all of a sudden somebody's tongue's in my mouth. So it is an effort to sort of standardize people doing their best work. Mm-hmm. And I think it's weird that, it wasn't said before, but it's an evolutionary process. And I think it's a really smart and good thing that we're moving more towards verbalizing it. Now, is everybody going to do it every time? People are going to make mistakes. Some people are going to have more of an idea behind sticking to those and making sure that they're following through with those safety precautions. But again, it's like we're trying to put one foot in front of the other, I think, a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm. And by making it a thing that we hope that all the other theaters are saying, yeah, we can agree to these minimum standards for working in our spaces. It helps us to take care of the individuals, Juan, like you said, the actual people working on the actual stages from incurring trauma in other spaces that aren't ours. It's a way that like we can start to say, if we collectivize, I'm helping you when you work at someone else's theater.
It standardizes the experience across the board too, so there is an expectation of how it should be.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I just don't, I've heard it and I accepted it because I've heard it, but it's like, what what's not a safe space? What is a safe space? What is this? Does I'll just use two of y'all as an example. Theaters Raleigh, is their safe space the same as Interact safe space? Because the sentence has been said, and then they go on to the next thing. So, is Lauren's idea of us? Wait a minute, I got to get my pen in the right direction. Lauren's idea of a safe space that I need to get on the top step of the ladder, and Tim's safe spaces I need to go third from the top.
I think it's going to be different from different theaters because it's also going to have different meanings with what the show is about, what the circumstances are. It could be a safe space just to feel like you can express your feelings and that they're going to stay within those four walls.
Or you can be a bad actor at first and not feel like you're going to get fired.
Right.
You're doing your work at your own process.
By creating a set of session agreements that are repeated at the top of every session, even at the top of every rehearsal, even if you have to book the first 10 minutes of every rehearsal to repeat the same session agreements. I think that's something we can carry over from our Zoom meeting life that I've been loving, that at every top of every session, we do our pronouns, we make our land acknowledgement, we do those things. I think we're theater people, we're people who love a ritual. I think we can make that part of our ritual back in the rehearsal spaces as well. And that will define it right then and there at the top of every single rehearsal.
It's tough. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I'm dealing with the fact that as being the only full equity theater, I know some of you hire some equity artists, but being the only equity theater, this is a topic that's really close to my heart because I have a set of standards and rules, huge set of restrictions that nobody else is having to deal with in the area. And it's going to be even more apparent as we go forward in the next few months because we're not able to do some of the things that I'm grateful you guys are able to do. Why is it safe for some people and it's not safe for people who have an equity card? I don't know the answer to that. So I'm living in the world of there being different standards, but I agree with you so much. Having a set that we can all live by in other areas is fantastic.
Jerry, y'all hold off for about 10 seconds. Jerry, go ahead.
What I was going to say earlier was that one thing from Uzbekistan, what I was going to say earlier was one of the things I'm working on too is this idea of setting standards 4 weeks before you ever walk into the theater for the first time for that first rehearsal. So you can't do everything until you get together and talk and make those decisions. Like prior to coming to this audition, this is what you're going to be expected to do. If you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine. And we look forward to seeing you at the next set of auditions because this is a show that requires that. But it's to give you the honest appraisal before you walk in. Your expectation. And same thing when we're doing a show like Sweat, which is racially charged. You may not be comfortable doing that particular show because of the subject matter. Have you read it? We'll give you a copy of it. If you have questions, please talk to us beforehand so that before you don't put you in an awkward situation where you didn't realize there was nudity in this play or that there was whatever, and now we're pressuring you to do that. That's not safe, I think. And so I'm working, and I think that's another part of this evolution is to let people know what they're getting into before they come into the theater for that particular production.
Yes, and all in efforts of getting the best work out of your artists and artists feeling like they can express.
And I was gonna say, and don't get me wrong, the actors are not 100% innocent in all of this because it happens, and they don't say anything. But they don't say anything because they don't feel like they can. So it's their fault that they didn't say anything. And obviously we know Juan gonna say something because hey, I'm here. But it's when you think about the whole safe space, they heard that, but then they turn around and they don't feel like, well, I can't say anything because if I do, I might get fired.
Well,
and
then
really,
that is
I really
our
need
job
to
as producers to make sure that they feel heard and that we listen.
And fix that
Exactly. And
culture.
Yep,
Fix
and
it.
we heal the culture. Yep.
and you have a
So-
culture where you say it over and over and over again and again and again. And that's one thing I try to do. And we have a handout that we say is, especially if it's a show, I'll use Spring Awakening. We knew it had nudity in it, and it's like Jerry said, you have to make sure people understand this is what's to be expected, and that you're going to have an intimacy director, and you're going to have them feel safe in the space, and that everybody's not going to be in there the first time that we do these things. It's going to be different for a community theater, like Eric said, than what a professional equity theater is. I mean, it's not that we can't strive to all be the exact same thing, but equity has its rules, and I completely understand where Eric's coming from on that.
Well, I just hope that, and I'm probably preaching to the choir right now. I probably need to be preaching to the congregation, but let's hope the congregation is watching. But I just hope that one of the takeaways from this part of the conversation that all theaters are doing is not just reading and saying this is a safe space and go on to the next topic. Let their actors and actresses know what is a safe space. I did a kids show, and one of the kids said, she was black, well, she is black, she ain't dead. She was in the green room, and she was in the green room, and one of the white actors, who also was a child, said, "Turn the lights off, and you won't see her anymore," because she was dark skinned. She never said anything to anybody. But I'm almost sure that it said this is a safe space. Somebody said this is a safe space before. Maybe they didn't. But most everybody says that.
I can't say enough. Book Nicole Brewer, book Monet Marshall to come do an anti-racist theater workshop with your staff, and it'll change everything. It'll make a difference in that, because that hurts to hear that happened to a child, and I know it happens all the time. But damn,
yeah, it does. So last thing I'm gonna ask, because we over, and I know y'all want to go to bed, and me and Eric got to do our hair, and so
I gotta put those curlers in.
Right. I roll mine with rice, Eric. I roll mine with rice. Long grain rice. Okay, rice-a-roni. Lauren, what are you working on? Let's do some shameless plugging.
Yeah, what am I working on? I'm just trying to figure out which plan I'm going to be moving forward with. Is it A, B, C, D, E, F, or G? No, I'm putting together our new Theater Raleigh Arts Center, which is our new space. And I am, kind of doing the shell game where I'm moving some shows around. I mean, we are still hoping to do some shows this summer, whether it be in, socially distanced in our new huge, like 10,000 square foot room, or we're going to be doing them outside, or we're going to be live streaming them, So we're going to do probably 4 or 5 shows over the next 6 months. And, we are also offering, putting together our packages for rentals, for nonprofit rates for other arts organizations, and applying for grants so we can offer our space for free, things like that. So I'm really looking forward to being a part of the community in that way. It really excites me to think that we can collaborate and work with other companies alongside Theater Raleigh in our own space.
Okay, so no virtual plays or anything coming up right now?
Right now we have Yolanda Rabin is doing her concert, which is a Gladys Knight concert, on February 13th. She's doing, it's called Neither One of Us. It's Gladys Knight and the Pips. So it's really exciting. She's creating it as we speak. And we were going to be doing that online.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Eric, what's going on in your world? What's going on at NCT? What are y'all doing? Are you muted? What did you do, Eric?
What have you done?
Nope.
It was muted. I'm 117. No, what we're doing is we're continuing to work on the virtual series that we created backstage at NCT and All In Community Conversations, which takes the themes of the shows that we would have performed the rest of 2020 and uses our youth from the conservatory hosting folks from the community to talk about the themes of those shows. So we have 2 more installments of both of those series that we're working on. And then, we're looking ahead to our season that will start later in the year. And like Lauren said, we've got, well, like all of us, we've got plan A, B, C, D. I was on with an artistic director from not our area earlier today, and we were just commiserating. The equity thing is no joke. And so that's a big part of what I'm doing right now, because it's 30 pages of a report that you have to put forward to apply for them to say yes to doing a show. You have to prove that you have the proper HVAC. You have to prove that you have a 10-foot space around every actor so that they have a box when they're in rehearsal. You have to prove that you have plexiglass that's between every actor and every person playing an instrument on the stage. No intermission, 1 wig, 1 costume per show. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. So I'm working on that and trying to figure out, how do we do that? How do we make that work budgetarily and just physically? So that's a lot of what I'm doing right now.
That's a play in itself, that 30-page document. Good Lord. And by the way, Eric, I don't know how long ago I sent it, but I sent a friend request to you on Facebook and you ain't accepted it yet. But I ain't feeling some type of way. I ain't feeling some type of way or nothing. I just thought I'd say that.
Don't be calling people out like
I'm bad on there.
I need you to get right. Now I ain't saying I'm taking it personal, but I'm taking it personal.
I'm gonna go through and find it. I'm gonna go through and find it tonight.
I'm gonna just undo it and redo it again. That way it'll be at the top. Okay, that's how you do it. All right, thank you, sir. Tim, what's going on? What plays are happening? What are you doing at the theater? Well, I know nothing about Interact.
Huh? Yeah, right.
I was joking. I said I know nothing. Yeah, go ahead.
We had some success with the duet cabarets that we had earlier in the year during the holidays. And we're hoping to have one for Valentine's and then later in the spring. I actually have had 2 submissions. We had such a success with Bingo, written by Miss Patsy Clark and Nancy Rich, for the seniors who are doing Zoom and things. It was so popular. We have had 2 submissions to do another Zoom type play written by local artists, and I'm just now getting the chance to look at them, and hopefully we will get those in the works. And like everybody else, when I have my board meeting on Saturday, they will see plan A, B, C, D, and E, and trying to piggyback. We all know what it's like trying to get rights right now when we say we don't know if we're going to be able to do it or not. That's a big thing that I've been dealing with this week. And trying to get grants together. One good thing I can say is that the people who are giving grants understand that we're under the COVID restrictions, and they know that plans change, and that's a good thing for us all.
Okay, thank you. Joanna?
I've said it a few times, but we're doing this virtual world premiere of this Othello project directed by Jamaica Holloway. Tickets will be on sale very soon, and it will be in April. We are accepting submissions right now for our Fringe Lab cohort. It's a 5-month training program. There's a directing track, a live stream producing track, and a performing track. And yes, the live stream producing track, the one and only Mickey Stiff, will be teaching folks how to do the OBS, how to do all your live broadcasting, everything from A to Z to learn how to stream your own work. And it fantastic. And you can find that on our website. And in February, we start our virtual plays club again, which was our very first initiative after lockdown, when we just stumbled into using Twitch, inviting playwrights with big names to come and do stuff with us. So we'll be announcing that lineup for February really soon, and we'll be back on Twitch for that. And then, we're having our festival in July, so that planning is underway. And just like everyone, it never stops, and we're trying to think into the future and keep building this virtual community while loving on Raleigh as much as we can.
There you go. And by the way, Mickey, because I hope you're still watching, I need to talk to you about something. And yeah, I just thought I'd put that in there. Jerry, I saved the furthest from the United States for last. From Wakanda, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Jerry Sip.
Well, we're continuing our season from now through June. We're working right now with the poet laureate of North Carolina, Jackie Shelton Green, on a filmed interpretive piece of her poetry collection, A River Speaks of Thirst, about African American issues. Christy Vincent Johnson directs. It's going to be involving music and, of course, Jackie's amazing poetry. Also with Jewish Family Services, Peace, which is a Holocaust remembrance, is featuring the stories. It's called Where Can We Go? And it also has the Yiddish pronunciation, which I can't say. I'm not going to mess it up. But it is about, 6 real Holocaust survivors, all in their 80s and 90s, who are speaking their real truths about how they survived in the Holocaust. It's a documentary style film, but really a kind of a remembrance and a moving portrait of their experiences. And our final year will be in June, which is a encore production of Finding My Voice by Lee Galbraith, about her issues, women's issues, as she became an accidental opera singer. It's a show that was presented at Common Ground Theater when Common Ground was still around in Durham, and it was filmed at that time. And we're hoping to launch that beautiful story off real, of course, another memoir type story, because it was filmed in front of a live audience, and we want to bring that feeling back, as hopefully sometime in the summer, fall, winter, where they were back in live theater in front of real people.
Okay. I'm gonna give the count. Okay, I think he's through. Lauren, you can come on back up here, but while you coming back up here, I never tell about what I'm doing. So
I was gonna ask what you were doing.
Yeah, can I tell? Okay, so I'm doing sound design for like 4 different things right now that is all going to be showing in January. So I'm doing sound design for Freedom Summer at National Black Theater Festival in Winston. I'm doing sound design for the conversation pieces that Burning Coal is doing, Under the Flood and Forever. And then I am emceeing and video editing the fundraiser for Burning Coal, which is going to be on the 23rd. So but as far as acting goes, the fundraiser, I'll be acting the fool. But other than that, I'm not acting anything right now. I'm doing more behind the scenes work, thanks to actually I've done it for her too. Thanks to Johanna, Tim, and Jerry, I do more behind the scenes work now than I do in front of on the stage, and so I'm happy about that. So it keeps me gainfully part-time job employed. So I'm happy about it. Oh, okay. So that's me. All right, Lauren, your turn.
Well, can you hear me okay, Juan? I know when I was on. Okay, good. I'm glad. While you all were on the air, we received runner-up in the WRAL Voters' Choice Best Podcast. Congratulations, 919 Beer, on your win. And thank you all for voting. This is amazing. And thank you all for being here. It's been a long week, but I love seeing all your faces, and I cannot wait to get back to the theater. And I will say I am working with Jerry and Justice Theater Project to participate in the Holocaust piece that you were talking about, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you for that opportunity, and we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing.
We're grateful to you, Lauren, and to you too, Juan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you plug what's tomorrow night? Lauren, did you talk about
tomorrow night? We are taking a field trip, a virtual field trip, because we're going to have our field trip Fridays because I'm sick of being in my house. And so we're now taking virtual field trips. That's part of the pandemic we're in. And we're going to go to Goodley Frame Theater in Greensboro and see what they've been up to. They've been doing a lot of interesting Zoom plays that a lot of our Raleigh folks have been involved in. So I'm really excited to see what they're doing. Next week, we have a really fun lineup. I'll be talking to Hobie Ford about puppetry. I'll be talking to Michael Anthony about his life as the bartender at Hamilton. And we'll be going on a field trip Friday to Judson Theater Project in Pinehurst. So it's a good week next week too. Come back.
Okay, my last thing, and then I'm gonna say good night. Eric, I want you to put me on the stage downtown, and I want to play in the one-woman play called about Coretta Scott King, and before she married Martin, and we're gonna call it Great Scott, and I'm gonna play Coretta, okay, with no wig.
Okay, you got it.
And you figure it out. You figure it out. And I got five people up here, six. Y'all need to write the play. Y'all need to write it. Okay? Now you figure all that out.
Eric, welcome to Life with Juan.
I'm in your life now, Eric.
Juan, this has been so much fun, and I thank you. I thank you. Fun and important, and I thank you, and I thank all of you for including me. And do send me that Facebook thing.
I just sent it again.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Guys, you know what I would ask all you to tell actors and other people, because I know you guys talk to people. Tell them that I don't bite. There have been people who've been scared to come up here because they think I'm gonna just say something that's gonna make them not be in theater anymore. I'm just having conversation. I'm not. Please tell them I don't bite. Usually,
you don't.
Thank you. So,
you're lovely.
Guys, I'm lovely. 17 minutes over, but it was well worth it. It really was. This was great conversations, and we thank our reporter in Wakanda. Thank you so much for being able to tune in with us. I'm not sure what the time zone is over there, but if it's daytime for you, then you can go on out. We're all going to bed over here in the States, right, Eric? How you say it?
In the States.
Okay, in the States. Thank you guys, and good night. Talk to you later.
Thank you.